Joining us now, the superintendent of schools, Kenneth Gutman. Good morning, sir. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic as well.
Good, good. Thank you for joining us. You guys are right in the crosshairs of the state budget. When I say you guys, I mean education around the state of Michigan. So let's get right to it. I've heard that numbers may be anywhere from $500 a student up to $2,500 a student as we're working on getting a state budget that works. What are you hearing? What are your thoughts? What kind of plans are happening in Walled Lake?
Yeah, we're hearing the same thing you are, Dave. And I can tell you that if we were even to look at $500 per student, we're looking at a $10.6 million reduction in Walled Lake schools. It's crazy. I look back to 2011 when we cut $470 per student. This year was the first year we were going to pass what we had previously received in 2011. It would be a huge step back for us to even receive a $500 per pupil reduction.
So, given that, and I have a note here, it says the latest budget planning from the state of Michigan says maybe $600 per student. We don't know that. I mean, we have no idea what dollars are going to be available, but that's what they're working towards. I mean, you got as unfortunate and miserable as it is, it's kind of like, you know, my mom made me eat those green beans. I hated it, but I knew I had to. You got some green beans on your plate, my friend, right now. And so are you working on a plan, or what are we going to do?
We are, unfortunately, our plan includes sweeping reductions, layoffs, and that sort of thing. 85% of our budget is staff. And that's the terrible, most terrible part is we end up at a time where we know more about how to teach. We need more restrictions potentially when we open in the fall, and we could potentially have fewer staff to work with the issues we'll have. So we'll eat the green beans and we'll make it work for our kids. It just will obviously not be optimal.
All right. Well, sorry to get our interview off to such a, a difficult start. Just the reality we're going to have to deal with. Is there a safety net out there? Is there, are there conversations? You're closer to this than I am. Are there conversations to somebody, the federal government, some other pile of money coming from somewhere to help out?
That's what we hope to see happen. I think short of a federal stimulus package, we're in a lot of trouble. And that's not just us. I mean, you look at districts with very little fund balance, this could bankrupt the number of districts around the state. And so if we really would love to see people advocating for federal stimulus money. Even Senator Shirkey came out yesterday and said, look, we need to do this. We need to not cut education budgets. Think about the implications of just social distancing. Think about that, and think about having potentially more students in a classroom because you have fewer staff. That's a little upsetting. And so we hope to be able to, we hope that our advocacy at the federal level is successful.
And do you feel, Ken Gutman, superintendent at Walled Lake Schools, do you feel that education is getting its fair share from the state of Michigan? I mean, everyone's got to tighten their belt. It's going to impact other areas of the state budget. Are we far enough down the road where we even know what that looks like and whether it'd be appropriate for school districts to lobby for more of the dwindling state dollars?
We're not unrealistic. We understand there's no money out there right now, at least at the state level. From my perspective, though, if I don't advocate for our children, I shouldn't be doing this job. And frankly, our children deserve better than we'll be able to give them next year if we don't receive some help from the federal government.
All right. Well, you never know, too. In some communities, I don't know if it's going to work in Walled Lake, but in some communities, it may be necessary to go to the business community and the philanthropic community to see if there are some dollars out there. I mean, it would be hard to replace that, $10 million number you were talking about. But are there discussions in some communities around the state and maybe even Walled Lake about looking for some other philanthropic sources of money?
There are certainly those discussions taking place. It's a hard time for everyone, though, and I don't know how much philanthropic money there is when there are so many people. Let's be honest, we have people dying. We have people who are ill. There are a lot of needs, and we have bankruptcies. We have people losing their homes potentially. We have businesses potentially going under. It's a rough time for everyone. So certainly I will advocate for education, understanding that this is a tough time for our entire community and the communities around us.
All right, Ken Gutman, superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated Schools. Isn't it fun coming on this show?
I love this show, Dave.
Well,
I hope we can keep doing this next year.
yeah, no, no, this is where I mean, I appreciate you being good spirited when we are having these difficult conversations. It isn't easy. How's graduation planning coming? I know that's another tough one too.
So it's I take a deep sigh. So it's coming along well. We've actually rescheduled our graduations. We were supposed to do all three high school graduations on the 31st, May 31st coming up, and obviously those won't happen. So we've looked at rescheduling them, one on July 31st and two on August 2nd. The reason to not be able to do them all in one day is we do these at Eastern Michigan University, and they like us to space these out more to allow for proper cleaning, including every seat in the stadium prior to us having these ceremonies. Now, will these ceremonies even be permissible by July 31st or August 2nd? Who knows? And so we're not even sure if those will take place, but we certainly want to keep those on our calendar. We also have some other events planned, if you don't mind, Dave, for our seniors. We're going to do a virtual senior honors recognition on May 22nd. We're going to do a legacy scholarship virtual recognition on May 28th. We're going to do senior celebrations on Sunday, June 14th. And I can tell you that our principals right now are in a meeting finalizing details for that, for cap and gown distribution, and all of those types of things. What saddens me is that this is not the senior year our seniors wanted. We all
Yeah,
know
yeah.
the rites of passage that come with a senior year. And this they'll have a story, but they won't have the same memories as the rest of us had of that year.
Well, I don't know. When I think back of my graduation and my senior year in high school and, the coming of age that represents and the transition to college life and getting on with the rest of your life, all those things are still there. So I think, for students that are going through this right now, don't be dismayed. Parents, don't be dismayed. All that's going to continue to happen. And I know that you, and I believe me, I'm talking to a lot of the school districts in our area, and I know that that you guys are going to find a really unique, creative way to recognize them. And, even though it was one of the darkest moments in our past, I do remember baseball in 1967, and then right after that, the World Series in 1968. So those are some really tough years, but you remember them, and you become stronger because of them. So I don't want to go on. This isn't about me, but I'm just
No,
hoping that that's where this all ends up.
and that's what I tell my son, who's a high school senior. Look, this won't define your life, but it will make you stronger, and there will be other opportunities to celebrate you. The other thing is, I hope you're guaranteeing the Tigers win the series then next year, based on your announcement.
It's an absolute. I got it right from my friend Dan Dickerson. He said as soon as we get baseball going, it's going to be a complete 100% turnaround. So yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah, but again, it's like everything else. We just don't know if the stadiums are going to fill up. You don't know whether you could be at Eastern Michigan. We can only plan. We can hope, but we just got to keep working on our plans and everything will be fine. So school's wrapping up. So can you talk a little bit about your schedule? And by the way, for folks listening, virtually everything that's going on in Walled Lake, something similar is going on in your district. So if you're listening right now and your kids don't go to Walled Lake schools, maybe they go to Bloomfield Hills or Avondale or one of the other Troy or one of the other districts. A lot of the same kind of planning is going on everywhere else. But Ken Gutman, we're talking about Walled Lake right now. So talk a little bit about what your schedule is like as we come to the end of the school year, what students will be doing during the summer, and if you'd like to transition into the fall, some thoughts about the fall as well.
Sure. So my schedule is jam-packed, as it always is. It's just different. It's all done virtually. It's Zoom meetings for 8-10 hours a day, as opposed to visiting schools and seeing children and being in other meetings and getting a chance to spend time with staff. So the fun parts of the job aren't there. It's being around students and staff and parents and celebrating education. But we're continuing to work hard and prepare our children, and albeit not as to the same degree we would like to. The fall's a different story. And so the fall is yet to be determined. We know that the governor is convening a council of people to make recommendations as to how best to reopen schools in the fall. And so we haven't made a determination because we're waiting for what the governor says, but we're looking at all kinds of options. Ideally, we open the way we used to. And I know perhaps that's a Pollyanna approach, We open the doors, we have our children there, we follow proper guidelines, and we're face-to-face instruction. That's the ideal. However, we have to look at a blended approach. Are some of the days in person, some of the days online? Are we looking at potentially doing different configurations where we're doing fully online for a while? I hope not, but we're considering all of that and trying to get prepared for whatever the governor's group recommends, because we want to make sure we take care of our children. There's a lot of learning loss that takes place over the summer, and unfortunately, we believe there's been some learning loss this spring as well.
All right. Well, we all have our hands full. We look forward to what Lansing has to say about it and how you and our other superintendents around the area figure out how to implement it, and we'll go from there. Ken Gutman, thank you very much for joining us, Superintendent, Walled Lake Consolidated Schools. Anything else you want to add before we say so long?
In spite of all of this other misery, we're going to continue to take care of every child every day in Walled Lake, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you.
All right. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And a huge thank you to the entire Walled Lake community who is so enthusiastic about your schools. And we also appreciate the enthusiasm over our broadcast and the participation. So thank you very much, Ken. Good to talk to you.